We'll start with 3 values: white, gray, and solid black. On a basic shape, the side closest to the sun is white. The side furthest from the sun is gray. The bottom is absent of light, therefore solid black. If this shape were a mountain, the side furthest from the light would be the darkest. A mountain near the peak, at least up in the high alpine, is usually rocky and the shape is irregular. So the light is not uniform. It's more like a staircase. The side of the mountain furthest from the light will be gray and black. The plains of the mountain facing the light are mostly white with some gray. Using that same principle, let's expand our value scale from 3 to 5. This will give our mountain shape more structure and depth. The gray tone sits in the middle. We go lighter by breaking the lines and spacing them further apart, and darker by making the lines thicker and placing them closer together. Our mountain peak, like in the previous exercise, has a jagged outline. We'll also give it one prominent ridge. The ridge spurs downward into smaller ridges and gullies. The shape is more complex, but the shading principles remain the same. We know the side furthest from the sun has the darkest values, and that the areas absent of light are solid black. We'll make the steeper parts of this rocky ridge black. As we move closer to the light, the steeper parts are dark gray. Adding solid black to those parts gives the illusion that it's got 3 or 4 sides to it, like a block, similar to the stairs in the previous exercise. Then, closer to the light, the shaded areas are rendered in a lighter tone. Now that all the areas that would be in shadow are shaded, let's add the midtones. It's more convincing if the entire backside of the mountain is shaded in a gradation, from dark to lighter tones. If you throw in a few irregular marks and vary the direction of the strokes, it gives an indication of texture as well. We started with basic shapes, and with only 3 values, gave those shapes volume and form. We then gave that shape more complexity, shading it with 5 values to establish a basic structure. Let's zoom into that structure for a moment. Like, literally, let's look at it up close. The only time we would see the details of a mountain summit is in the zoomed-in photo, or if we're climbing it. Typically, when drawing, say a landscape illustration, the mountains sit further in the distance. Even for a massive mountain, like Mount Robson here, we wouldn't draw every detail. But the illustration is more believable if we can create the illusion of details. Even when it's complex, it helps to break it down into simple blocks. As long as the values make sense, then the drawing will be convincing. Again, following that same logic, distributing the values based on the source of light, but this time exaggerating the irregular lines and varying the direction of strokes to suggest details without actually drawing any details at all. It's pretty abstract, yet it looks like a rocky mountain peak. Another thing that mimics details and texture is a line quality. Line quality is the thickness of the marks or strokes. It's helpful, especially if your composition has big mountains with lots of overlapping parts, like this Yosemite reference, or the one I'm using here of the Squamish Chief in British Columbia, Canada, where I used to live. It's a full scene with a foreground, middle ground, and background. A good rule of thumb with line quality is that anything that is closest to the viewer will be thick or bold, and the elements or objects that are further in the distance have thinner lines and fewer details. We'll say these trees are in the very foreground. I'm using a bold scribble pattern and 5 values. I'm not actually drawing any leaves, just implying leaves by varying the tonal values. Just a few directional strokes because, as we saw earlier, irregular marks can enhance the texture. I'm using a thin line for the outline until I get to the parts that are closest to the viewer, so the front apron of the mountain gets bold outlines. To render the mountain, we're still using the 5 values with the backside of the mountain in shadow. It's black or nearly black. But now I'm building tonal value by increasing the weight of the lines or bringing the lines closer together. Closer together without increasing the weight of the stroke gives us a gray value. Bold and close together strokes gives us darkest value. Using line quality, thin to thick, gives us a smooth transition of tones. In the next scene, we have even more overlaps and lots of depth. It has a foreground, middle ground, and background. The elements closest to the viewer, although small, are rendered with thick strokes. You'll note the hills closest to the horizon line are the smallest. These hills progressively grow into taller mountains as we go further into the picture plane. These overlaps give the scene a sense of dimension, but it could look flat if we rendered them all in the same tonal value. You'll see here there's 2 ways I'm giving the hills volume and depth. One is by alternating the tonal density between the layers. So one layer of dark hills, then a lighter layer behind that, then a darker one, etc. The second method is to vary the line direction. In this sketch, I'm following the plane angles, so my marks travel parallel to the form of the hills. The steeper the hills, the more vertical the rendering gets. And I'm minding the source of light. I'm varying the pattern of the hatch marks to suggest texture and that the ground is undulating. Sparse, broken lines indicate highlights, and bold lines closer together imply areas of shadow. The only difference between the 10-minute sketches we just did and this 10-hour project is the execution. In my project, I applied all the same principles. I used a value scale, jumping from 5 values to 8. My source of light is on the right-hand side. There's a foreground, middle ground, and background. I used line quality to give more prominence to the main subject. So the thickest outline is around the big mountains, making the mountains more imposing. You'll notice that that's also where I put the most contrast, black on the shadow side and white on the sunny side. To give the illusion of depth and differentiate between each overlap, I varied the texture, the line angles, and the values. In the foreground, we have a gray layer of grass, then black trees, over top of lighter shrubs and trees, over top of more black trees, and so on. The sky is a bird. It's mostly in the same gray tone and line width as to not overly distract from the main subject, which are the mountains. So here you have it. You can use these pen and ink shading principles whether you're doing 10-minute sketches or a complex illustration. If you're interested in exploring different hatching styles and mark-making techniques, check out the Stones and Rocks videos. I hope you enjoyed today's exercises. If you did, give it a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.